felon behind theft of 100 guns from cargo train given 10 years in prison. Growing up on Chicago's South Side, prolific train burglar Andrew Shelton understood firsthand the carnage caused by illegal guns. When he was just 16, Shelton, a former Gangster Disciples gang member, shot 3 people and was sentenced to 4 years in prison, court records show. He survived 3 separate shootings himself in the 1990s, including a carjacking in which he was shot 9 times. And Shelton's father was slain in a drive-by shooting in 2001. So when Shelton and his burglary crew broke into a freight train one night 2 years ago and saw box after box of shiny new Ruger firearms stacked in the rail car, he of all people should have thought twice about throwing gasoline on the fire of Chicago's gun violence, a federal judge said Tuesday. Instead, Shelton helped steal more than 100 of the pistols and unloaded them to fences for sale on the street. Within days, the weapons were showing up at crime scenes around the city, at shootings, stashed under gutters, left on porches and tossed during police chases. In handing down a 10-year prison sentence Tuesday, U.S. District Judge John Tharp said Shelton and his band of serial train robbers showed utter indifference to the welfare of the people of this city. They showed us all that they just didn't care, Tharp said. They looked at those guns and all they saw were dollar signs. Shelton, 43, pleaded guilty earlier this year to 2 counts of unlawful transportation of firearms for his role in the 2015 train yard heist of 104 weapons that were being shipped by rail from the Ruger factory in New Hampshire to a wholesaler in Spokane, Washington. Shelton was the 4th person to be sentenced out of a total of 11 charged in a heist that highlighted a growing security problem at Chicago's rail yards. Last year, a Chicago man was charged with selling 23 guns stolen from a Chicago train yard to an undercover informant, including 6 high-powered Smith & Wesson rifles. A 2014 rail car theft of 13 military-style semi-automatic rifles remains unsolved, records show. In court Tuesday, prosecutors asked for up to 11 years in prison for Shelton, noting that his actions help fuel the city's ongoing epidemic of gun violence. To date, only 19 of the 104 firearms Shelton helped put on the street have been recovered by law enforcement, prosecutors said. Assistant U.S. Attorney Christopher Parenti noted that Shelton had been convicted of burglarizing trains 6 times in the past 2 decades, most involving the theft of merchandise such as shoes, electronics or clothing, but never received a sentence of more than 3 years behind bars. Parenti urged the judge to send a message to other would-be robbers that stealing guns will be met with a severe penalty. I get a call every few weeks about another gun recovery by law enforcement, in this case, Parenti said. These aren't sneakers, they aren't computers, it doesn't get more serious. Shelton's attorney, Gregory Mitchell, asked Tharp for a prison sentence of 5 years, saying prosecutors were overreaching by trying to draw a direct link between Shelton's crime of opportunity and any violence happening in the streets. Mitchell also invoked the mass shooting in Las Vegas on Sunday that killed at least 59 people, saying Shelton was worried that inflamed passions over gun violence would affect his sentence. It's unfair, Judge, Mitchell said. Mr. Shelton looked at these weapons simply as a commodity. Before the sentence was handed down, Shelton stood in court in an orange jail jumpsuit and issued a brief apology to his family and the court, saying this latest conviction has finally caused him to want to turn his life around. I look at things much different now, Shelton, who was married with 10 children, said in a deep voice as several relatives dabbed tears from their eyes. Records show Shelton was part of a crew of burglars who used bolt cutters to gain access to rail cars on freight trains parked in the Norfolk Southern rail yard on the south side. One of the thieves later told investigators they all took the guns back to the basement of a co-defendant, according to a court filing by prosecutors. There, they gleefully ripped open the packages, with one of the crew exclaiming, "Oh man, these mother are pretty." According to the filing, a railway worker discovered the theft at 7 the next morning after spotting broken locks and bolt cutters lying on the ground. By that time, The thieves were already busy selling them to whoever could move them quickest, according to prosecutors.